Hi guys! So we're ready for our story of the week, which is going to be called Amazing Grace. And this was written by Mary Hoffman and it's illustrated by Carolyn Bench. All right, so this week we're going to focus on lesson. Okay, when I say a lesson, this is what the author wants you to learn from the book, okay? Sometimes they call this the central message. So for example, you might learn to share with others from a book, might be something. So when we're reading this book, Amazing Grace, I want you to think about what was the lesson that the author is trying to get us to learn from it. And there's some ways that you can find the lessons, questions that you can ask. You say, what is the problem? What do the characters do about the problem? What does the character learn? What does the author want me to learn? So when we're thinking about trying to figure out what the lesson is, those are some questions we can ask ourselves. All right, so here's some vocabulary words that we're going to need to know for this book. So the first word is seek. And to seek means to try, to find, or to look for. You can think of it when we say hide and seek. You're looking for that person that's hiding. Audition. An audition is a performance that tests the ability of an actor or dancer. It's usually when they try out to be in something, like you might audition for a play or a part in a play, or you might audition to sing in a musical. Imagine, to think or create a picture or an idea in your mind. So when you imagine something, you're thinking about it in your mind. And then success, a person or thing that does well. So if you're successful, it means that you're doing really well at something. Stunning. Stunning means extremely impressive or attractive. It also can mean amazing. So if you look at this picture of the peacock, it has stunning feathers. All right, and then this is our title page. So again, you can see that the title is Amazing Grace, and it's written by Mary Hoffman and illustrated by Carolyn Bench. And then it also tells us that it was made by Dial Books for young readers. So here we go. Grace was a girl who loved stories. She didn't mind if they were read to her or told to her or made up in her own head. She didn't care if they were from books or movies or out of Nana's long memory. Grace just loved stories. And after she had heard them, and sometimes while they were still going on, Grace would act them out, and she always gave herself the most exciting part. Grace went into battle as Joan of Arc and wove a wicked web as Anansi the spider. So those are stories that she heard and she wanted to act out. She hid inside the wooden horse at the gates of Troy. She went exploring for the lost kingdom. She sailed the 7 seas with a peg leg and a parrot. So she's always acting out these stories. She was Aladdin, rubbing his magic lamp to make the genie appear, and Mowgli in the backyard jungle. So let's think about it. If you guys think of the character Mowgli and remember what story that's from, that's right, it's from the Jungle Book. Most of all, Grace loved to act out adventure stories and fairy tales. When there was no one else around, Grace played all the parts herself. She set out to seek her fortune with no companion but her trusty cat, and found a city with streets paved with gold. Sometimes she could get Ma and Nana to join in when they weren't too busy. Then she was Dr. Grace, and their lives were in her hands. One day, Grace's teacher said they would do the play Peter Pan. Grace knew who she wanted to be. Who do you think she wants to be? Maybe that main character, Peter Pan? When she raised her hand, Raj said, "You can't be Peter, that's a boy's name." But Grace kept her hand up. "You can't be Peter Pan," whispered Natalie. "He isn't black." But Grace kept her hands up. "All right," said the teacher. "Lots of you want to be Peter Pan, so we'll have to have auditions next week to choose parts." And she gave them words to read. So remember, she's going to try out for this part. When Grace got home, she seemed sad. "What's the matter?" asked Ma. "Raj said I couldn't be Peter Pan because I'm a girl." "That just shows what Raj knows," said Ma. "A girl can be Peter Pan if she wants to." Grace cheered up, and then later she remembered something else. "Natalie says I can't be Peter Pan because I'm black," she said. Ma looked angry. But before she could speak, Nana said, "It seems Natalie is another one who doesn't know anything. You can be anything you want, Grace, if you put your mind to it." On Saturday, Nana told Grace they were going out. In the afternoon, they caught a bus and train into town. Nana took Grace to a grand theater. The sign outside read, "Rosalie Wilkins" in Romeo and Juliet in sparkling lights. "Are we going to the ballet, Nana?" asked Grace. "We are, honey, but first I want you to look at this picture." Grace looked up and saw a beautiful young ballerina in a tutu. Above the dancer it said, "Stunning New Juliet." So remember, there's that word stunning. "That one is little Rosalie from back home in Trinidad," said Nana. "Her granny and me, we grew up together on the island. She's always asking me, do I want tickets to see her Rosalie dance? So this time I said yes." After the ballet, Grace played the part of Juliet, dancing around the room in her imaginary tutu. "I can be anything I want to be," she thought. On Monday, the class met for auditions to choose who was the best for each part. When it was Grace's turn to be Peter Pan, she knew exactly what to do and all the words to say. She had been Peter Pan all weekend. She took a deep breath and imagined herself flying. Then it was time to vote. The class chose Raj to be Captain Hook and Natalie to be Wendy. There was no doubt who would be Peter Pan. Everyone voted for Grace. "You were fantastic," whispered Natalie. The play was a big success, and Grace was an amazing Peter Pan. After it was all over, she said, "I feel as I could fly all the way home." "You probably could," said Ma. "Yes," said Nana, "if Grace puts her mind to it, she can do anything she wants." All right, so let's think about this story. What do you think the lesson was in this story? What do you think the story of Grace was trying to tell us? That's right. The lesson that the author wants us to learn is that you can do anything that you set your mind to. It doesn't matter. Grace wasn't a boy, but she got to play Peter Pan because she worked really hard at it and put her whole heart into it. So that's one of the lessons that we take away from this book is if you put your mind to it, you can do it. So what you're going to do today is you're going to connect to Seesaw and you're going to do a little activity about Grace. And so what you're going to do about Grace is you're going to say what you learned from Grace. There's going to be a big board that says what can we learn from Grace. And so tell us some things that you learned from Grace. Okay? All right, you guys did an awesome job and I'll see you later.